going over application 7, quantitative analysis, and more specifically, we're going to be looking primarily at our tests of difference, t-tests, and our test of relationships, correlations. These are inferential statistics, meaning we have data from a sample and we want to make an inference, a statement about the population. What is the likelihood that this relationship we find in our sample is also true of the population? Okay, I'm going to walk you through these. Number 1, please calculate an independent or 2 samples t-test for the following data. We use the term independent. Excel will use 2 samples, which is why I mentioned that to you. You work for a nonprofit organization and your manager asks you to see if businesses donate more on average than individuals. She has some data on type of donor, business versus individual, and average yearly donations. This is sample data. So as in the last application, I highlight yellow where you should have a formula. Okay, I'm just asking you to calculate the means as practice, and also our tests are based around our means. So equals average, parentheses, highlight. Okay, you did this in the last application. Okay, and then I can just pull this over. Okay, now we want to run our t-test to get a p-value. This is going to be a little different than what I did in class because this will work, this should work at least, I looked it up, on both PCs and Macs. Equals t-test, parentheses, highlight my first range, I'm comparing that group, comma, I highlight my second range to that group. Now I have to tell Excel a couple other things. So comma, and you'll see here, your may not pop up with that menu, but as one of those, a one-tailed or two-tailed distribution, this is not something we went over. I'm just going to say 2. And I can explain that to you if you're really interested, but it's not that important. Okay, comma, now we have to tell it what type of t-test. So for our purposes, we have an independent, 2 groups independent of each other, or a matched pairs, 1 group 2 different times. This is an independent, which I mentioned Excel has different terms, 2 sample, 2. Okay, it's number 2, the 2 sample equal variance. Okay, so highlight first range, comma, highlight second range, comma 2, comma 2. Close parentheses, tab or enter, and I get my p-value. I'm going to reduce that decimal just to make it a little easier to read. Okay. Then what does this analysis tell you in your own words, or perhaps better yet in my words? I give you very detailed language on how to do this. The closer you can get to that, the better. You can just enter that in the text box there. Okay. Question 2, please calculate a matched or paired samples t-test for the following data. Remember, matched, 1 group, 2 different points in time. You work as a youth sports coordinator for the city of Phoenix, which has targeted youth sportsmanship as an outcome for its soccer league. You gave the participants a sportsmanship scale at the beginning and end of the soccer season and are now analyzing the data. The numbers represent the total score for the scale. In other words, it had multiple questions, multiple items on it, and you summed those up. The higher the scores, the better. Okay? Again, I'm going to ask you to calculate the means, so equals average. Highlight. Copy that over. Okay, so we have a difference in our sample. What's the likelihood, probability that the difference also exists in our population? Equals t-test, parentheses, oops, try that again. Okay, let me not click so fast. Equals t-test, parentheses, I highlight my first range without the header, comma, highlight my second range, comma, we're going to say this is 2-tailed as well, 2, comma, now what type of t-test are we doing? We're doing paired or matched sample. Okay, so I remember this as it's 1 group, 2 different points in time, so comma 1. You don't have to memorize that, but as long as you're comma 1 there, you're good. Parentheses, enter or tab, I get my p-value, I'm going to make it smaller. Okay. Next question, you give the same instrument to your youth basketball participants, so let's do this test again. Okay, equals average. Paste it over, okay. Again, difference in our sample, what's the probability that difference exists in our population? Equals t-test, parentheses, highlight my first range, comma, highlight my second range, comma, 2, comma, what type of t-test? It is a matched pairs, one group, 2 different points at a time. That's comma 1, parentheses, enter. Get my p-value. Make it smaller just because I find that many numbers hard to read. Okay, there's your p-values. What does this analysis, or actually these analyses, because you just ran 2, tell you in your own words? Number 3, please calculate a correlation coefficient for the following data. In class, I did a matrix, which you can do on a PC. I'm not sure you can do it in a Mac. So but all we really care about is the correlation number. Anyway, you work at a residential treatment center as a recreational therapist and have historical data on the life satisfaction scale. Again, multiple items. We sum them up, and hours of daily television. How much television do they watch? What's the correlation between those two? What's the relationship? How do they move together? Equals CORREL, I never remember that one, parentheses. Okay. Highlight my first range, comma, highlight my second range, again without the header. Close parentheses, enter or tab, and I get a number, -0.93. What's this analysis tell you? In your own words. How do they move together? Excuse me. Number 4. Please calculate descriptive statistics for the following data. Just a little practice here. We should be good at this. Mean is equals average. Down. Median equals median. Parentheses. Highlight down. Mode, what's the most frequently occurring, equals mode. Highlight down. NA means there's no mode. There's nothing that occurs more than once. Standard deviation, remember how spread out are the data, equals STDEV. Parentheses. Highlight my range. Okay. Again, I'll make that smaller decimals. Okay. Now I can actually highlight all of these, go to the corner till I get the little plus sign, and drag them across. I should also tell you here, we should have a code on sex. I'm going to insert a comma. 0 equals male, 1 equals female. Okay. There's our data. Question, what does the mean of sex tell you? Think about that one. Be careful. Think about what mean or average means. Think about the level of data that sex are. Okay. More questions. If you want to compare the life satisfaction up here, there it is, life satisfaction. If you want to compare that with age, what statistical test would you use? You've got a couple in your toolbox, right? You've got 2 different types of t-tests, independent and matched pairs. You've got correlations. You've got mean, median, mode, standard deviation. Those are the ones we primarily talked about, so it's probably one of those, however many I just listed, 6 or 7. Okay, what test are you using? Again, entered in the text box here. If you wanted to compare life satisfaction by biological sex, okay, is there a difference but based on biological sex on life satisfaction? Which statistical test would you use? Same options. Enter in the text box. 5.3, if you wanted to compare the change in life satisfaction from the beginning to the end of a therapeutic recreation program, one group, 2 time, right? Change in life satisfaction with the program in the middle. What statistical test would you use? That's all there is to it. Really think about that interpretation, because that's the biggest thing here. Once you be able to do this in Excel, it's good practice, but you really got to understand what this stuff means. That's it. Have a great day and a fabulous weekend. We'll talk to you soon.